Today we're going to be talking about primary trigonometry ratios, so SOH-CAH-TOA, sine, cosine, and tangent, and we're going to be talking about where and how to use it as well as the formulas. So first of all, where do we use SOH-CAH-TOA? Well, SOH-CAH-TOA can only be used in right triangles, right angle triangles, so that means that there's there's only one right angle in your triangle. And we usually use it when we know two sides and are looking for an angle, or when we know an angle and a side and are looking for another side. So for example here, if we knew this side and this side, we'd be able to find this angle with SOH-CAH-TOA. Or if we knew this angle and this side, we would be able to find x, this side, with SOH-CAH-TOA. So how do you label your sides while doing trigonometry? Well, you have three types of sides. You have your hypotenuse, which is the side across from the given right angle. So you're always given a right angle in your right angle triangle to use your SOH-CAH-TOA. So here you have your right angle here, and it would be the side across from that right angle. So this would be your hypotenuse. And next you have your opposite side, which is the side across from the angle of interest. This is your angle of interest, and so the side across from it would be this side, your opposite angle. And your adjacent side is the side that is beside the angle of interest. So the side that's beside it, and notice that hypotenuse is also beside it, but because it's the hypotenuse, it cannot be your adjacent side, so this is your adjacent side. Okay. That's your adjacent side. So, first of all, what is your angle of interest? Your angle of interest is the angle we are looking for, or the angle we are using to solve. And it cannot be the right angle. Cannot. If you're wondering why, that is because the side across from your right angle is your hypotenuse, right? And if you're looking for your opposite side, that would also be your hypotenuse, so that you can't do that. You can't have one side labeled hypotenuse and opposite at the same time, so it cannot be a right angle. We labeled our angle of interest with a theta. A theta is pretty much a variable for your angles, and it's used a lot in trigonometry. So, let's take a look at our three types of ratios. Let's talk about the tangent ratio first. So the tangent ratio. The tangent ratio is when you know the opposite side and you know your adjacent side. That's when you'll be able to find your angle of interest. By the way, in this video, we're just going to be covering how to find your angle of interest relating to using your sides. In the next video, we'll be talking about how you can flip that around and how you can use an angle of interest to solve for one of your other sides. So this is our tangent ratio. Your tangent ratio, if we remember SOH-CAH-TOA, TOA is for tangent. And what does that mean, TOA? So you have tangent, opposite, adjacent, which means that it goes tan, your angle of interest, equals O over A. O is opposite, A is adjacent. So that means that when we try to solve, we're going to substitute our opposite angle into here and our adjacent angle into here. Notice how TOA, it's even in order, so O and then A. O on top, A on the bottom. So let's do an example here. We have a right angle triangle here. We know the sides 12 and 14. So this is our angle of interest. And what is 14? 14 is your opposite side, right? So this is your opposite side. And then this is the hypotenuse. So that means that this must be the adjacent side. Adjacent. So let's put our formula down here. Tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. And now what we're going to do, tan theta, and we're going to substitute in those sides. So what's your opposite side? Well, it's 14. And then your adjacent side is 12. So now that we substituted it in, let's simplify. And then, just like how division is the opposite of multiplication, or how your addition is the opposite of subtraction, the opposite of tan is this. Give me a moment. Is this. Tan -1 down there. Up there. That's not an exponent. That's just this whole thing is the opposite of tan. Okay. And then we're going to put this in brackets. So what we did in this step was we pretty much brought this to the other side using the opposite, just like what we would do in algebra. And if you're wondering what tan or tan -1 means, well, you can just, it's on your calculator, so you don't really need yet to understand how to work that. Just type it into your calculator. So, for example, let's type that in. Find your tan -1, and then put 7 divided by 6 in there. And that should give you approximately 49.39, we'll put 399, okay? And since that's an angle, let's put your degree sign in there. And that is how you found this angle of interest. On your calculator, be sure to make sure that your calculator is in the right mode, or else you might not get the right answers. So it should be in D mode. Okay, and let's look at the next ratio. So here we have the sine ratio. Now the sine ratio, to use this, we're going to need to know the opposite side and the hypotenuse. And our formula would go sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. This is just so. Right, SOH-CAH-TOA. So sine, opposite, hypotenuse. So that's your formula there. Let's try, it's pretty much the same thing as tangent, except you have your sine symbol and you have some different sides you're going to use. So it's pretty much the same process, however. So let's try this example here. First of all, actually, your right angle is here, so that means the one opposite it should be your hypotenuse. So that's your hypotenuse. And then this is your angle of interest, this theta over here. So, what's opposite of it should be your opposite side. And now, wow, you have your opposite side and your hypotenuse side already. So let's plug those into your formula. Opposite over hypotenuse which equals, your opposite is 5 and your hypotenuse is 14. And just like what we did with the tangent ratio, sine also has an opposite. So the opposite of sine is sine -1. And again, you're going to keep that over there. You should also be able to find this out on your calculator, so just type it right in, and then you should get approximately 20.925 degrees. And there you have it. That's your angle. And now finally, let's take a look at our last ratio, which is the cosine ratio. Now in your cosine ratio, you're going to need the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So cosine, cosine, CAH. So CAH-TOA. So cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Cos adjacent hypotenuse. Adjacent hypotenuse. That's your formula there. And let's try it out with an example. So in here we have this, our right angle. The opposite of it seems to be 14, so that's your hypotenuse. And then theta, your angle of interest. The opposite of it is here, so that's your opposite side. And then your adjacent side would be 10. It's right beside your angle of interest, and it's not the hypotenuse. So now that you have your three sides figured out, you just need the adjacent and hypotenuse side, and that's what you're given too. Let's plug those into our formula. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Plug it in. Your adjacent is 10. Your hypotenuse is 14. We can reduce. We can reduce. And then just like what we did with tangent and sine, cosine also has an opposite, which is cos -1. And you should also be able to find this on your calculator. It's very commonly in your second function, by the way, the negative ones. So look for that in the second function on your calculator. And that should give you approximately 44.415 degrees. And that's your angle. Alright, those are your three ratios, and that is primary trigonometry ratios. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for next time. Thank you.